Have you ever set a big goal and felt excited at the beginning, only to give up after a few days or weeks? Maybe you wanted to lose weight, write a book, start your own business, or simply become more disciplined. You made a plan, felt inspired, maybe even bought a new notebook or app to track your progress. But slowly, life got in the way. Days passed. You missed a few steps. Then you told yourself you'd start again next Monday, but Monday never came. And your big, exciting goal became a quiet disappointment, sitting in the back of your mind. If this has happened to you, know that you are not alone. This is something millions of people experience every day. We live in a world that glorifies big goals and huge success stories, but what we often don't see is the tiny steps behind those stories. Big goals sound motivating at first, but they quickly become overwhelming when we try to change too much at once. The truth is, your goal might not be the problem, your approach might be. You see, real success doesn't come from one big effort. It doesn't happen because of one perfect week of productivity. It happens through small, consistent actions repeated every day. This is where the magic of tiny habits begins. Tiny habits are the quiet builders of transformation. They don't shout, they don't impress anyone at first glance, but they grow stronger and stronger every time you repeat them. Let's think about it in a simple way. Imagine someone decides to run a marathon. They're full of excitement, so they wake up early and run 10 miles on the first day. The next day, they do the same. By day 3, they're in pain. Their legs hurt, their energy is gone, and by the end of the week, they quit. Not because they were lazy, but because the goal was too much, too fast. Now imagine someone else who simply starts by walking for 5 minutes every morning. It feels too easy at first, but it's consistent. Every day they walk. After a week, they increase to 10 minutes. Then 15. A month later, they're jogging. 6 months later, they're running a marathon, not out of force, but because their body and mind were gently trained to handle it. This is the silent power of tiny habits. They don't make you feel like a failure. They don't ask for too much. They build confidence through small wins. And most importantly, they're easy to stick with. A tiny habit is something you can do in less than 2 minutes. It might seem too small to matter, but that's the point. Because it's so small, your brain doesn't resist it. You don't need motivation. You don't need the perfect mood or the right day. You just do it. And each time you do, you build a little more trust with yourself. Science backs this up. Our brains are wired to create patterns through repetition. The more often we do something, the more automatic it becomes. When we repeat a tiny behavior every day, even something as small as writing 1 sentence, doing 3 push-ups, or drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, we strengthen the brain's habit loop. Over time, that loop becomes stronger and harder to break, and the habit becomes part of who we are. Stanford researcher B.J. Fogg, who introduced the idea of tiny habits, showed that small changes are not only easier to stick with, they also grow naturally over time. He recommends linking a new habit to an existing one. For example, if you drink coffee every morning, simply say, "After I pour my coffee, I'll write 1 sentence in my journal." The coffee becomes your cue. You don't have to think about it, the habit becomes automatic. This approach works because it avoids something called decision fatigue. Every day, we make hundreds of choices. When we're tired or stressed, we tend to avoid doing things that require effort or thought. But when a habit is linked to a routine and is tiny enough, your brain doesn't treat it as a decision. It just does it. Tiny habits work for another reason. They're easy to begin. You don't need a new gym membership, expensive equipment, or hours of free time. You don't even need motivation, just willingness. And because they're easy, you don't feel guilty or overwhelmed if life gets busy. You just pick up right where you left off. Let's take a real-life example. A woman named Sarah wanted to get fitter but hated the gym. Instead of setting a big goal, she started doing just 3 squats while waiting for her coffee. That was it, just 3. It seemed too small to matter, but she stuck with it. A few weeks later, she added jumping jacks, then push-ups. Within 6 months, she had a full morning workout routine, and it didn't feel forced. It grew naturally, step by step. Or take David, who struggled with anxiety. He started writing down just 1 thing he was grateful for before bed. Just 1. After a while, he noticed his thoughts becoming more positive. He became calmer, more patient, and more emotionally balanced. That one tiny habit helped shift his entire mindset. This is the beauty of what's called the compound effect. Just like saving a small amount of money every day adds up over time, small habits add up too. At first, it feels like nothing is happening, but keep going, and suddenly you realize you've changed. You've created a new version of yourself, quietly and steadily, and that's the most powerful part. Tiny habits don't just change your behavior, they change your identity. When you read one page every night, you start to believe, I'm a reader. When you go for a short walk every day, you become someone who moves. When you write one line in a journal, you become a writer. These small acts send a signal to your brain. This is who I am now. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says, every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. Tiny habits are how you cast those votes. Over time, these votes build your new identity. You no longer have to fake it, you become it. So where should you start? You don't need a complete life plan. Just ask yourself one simple question. What's one small thing I can do today that moves me closer to the life I want? Make it so easy you can't fail. Do it right after something you already do, like brushing your teeth, boiling water, or turning off your alarm. You don't need to change everything in a week. Just change one small thing. Add one tiny habit. Practice it every day. Build trust with yourself. Watch it grow. Watch yourself grow. Because at the end of the day, it's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters and doing it consistently. Big goals will always sound exciting, but the quiet, powerful progress comes from the smallest of steps. Tiny habits are your secret weapon. They don't need motivation, they don't require willpower, they just need repetition. And if you stick with them, they'll change everything. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly form new habits while others struggle, even when they try hard? Why does waking up early, eating healthy, or staying productive feel like a battle for many of us? The answer may not be a lack of discipline, it may lie in how our brains are wired. And the good news is that wiring can be changed. This is where the 21-day rule comes into play, a simple but powerful idea that tells us it takes 21 days to form a new habit and start reshaping our behavior patterns. The 21-day rule is based on the idea that repeating a behavior for 21 consecutive days can create a strong mental path, allowing the new action to move from conscious effort into automatic routine. Imagine carving a trail in a forest. The first few days, you push through thick grass and fallen branches. It's difficult, slow, and uncomfortable. But if you walk that same path every single day, the grass begins to flatten, the trail clears, and eventually, it becomes a natural walkway. Habits work the same way. The first few attempts may feel forced or awkward, but consistency creates smoothness. It trains the brain to stop resisting and start accepting the new behavior as part of daily life. The science behind the 21-day rule isn't just motivational talk, it's rooted in the concept of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's amazing ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. In simple words, our brains are not fixed. They're constantly changing in response to our experiences, actions, and thoughts. Each time we do something new, a new pathway begins to form in the brain. The more we repeat it, the stronger that pathway becomes, and the easier the action becomes. Let's say you've never meditated before, and now you want to make it a habit. On the first day, your mind might wander. You may feel bored, restless, or even irritated, but you continue anyway. You do it again the next day, and the next. By day 7, it still feels unfamiliar, but slightly less uncomfortable. By day 14, it starts to feel like part of your evening. By day 21, your brain has begun to accept it as a regular behavior, and if you keep going, it becomes part of your identity. That's the power of repetition over time. Now, 21 days is not a magic number carved in stone. Different studies suggest different time frames depending on the person and the habit. Some habits may take longer, perhaps 60 days or more. But the reason the 21-day rule became popular is that it gives people a realistic, approachable timeline to aim for. It creates a sense of structure. Just commit for 3 weeks. Not forever, not even a month, just 3 weeks. That feels doable. It's long enough to break old patterns, but short enough to avoid feeling overwhelming. But why is this process so hard at the beginning? Why do we find it difficult to stick to new routines, even when we know they're good for us? It's because the brain favors comfort and familiarity. Your current habits, even the unhelpful ones, are deeply ingrained in your brain's reward system. When you try to change them, your brain resists. It sends discomfort signals. It says, this isn't normal. That's why waking up early when you're used to sleeping late feels like torture at first, or why choosing a salad instead of fast food feels unsatisfying. But once your brain sees a new action repeated consistently, it begins to update its definition of normal. This is where discipline and patience are needed most in the first phase, when your brain is resisting and the results are invisible. You may not see a flat stomach after 7 days of working out. You might not feel calm after 5 days of meditation, but your brain is rewiring quietly. Under the surface, new habits are forming. You are becoming someone different, not in appearance, but in mindset. A crucial part of this journey is consistency. The 21-day rule works only if you practice your habit every single day. Skipping days can weaken the new neural pathways you're building. Think of it like watering a plant. If you water it daily, it grows. But if you forget for a week, it wilts. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be present. Even if you don't have time for a full workout, doing just 5 minutes of movement keeps the habit alive. Even writing one line in a journal or reading one page of a book is better than skipping the day entirely. Another thing to remember is that habits are often easier to form when tied to an existing routine. For example, if you brush your teeth every morning, attach a new habit right after it. Say to yourself, after brushing my teeth, I'll drink a glass of water, or after I turn off my morning alarm, I'll do 5 push-ups. This technique, called habit stacking, uses the strength of your current routines to support the new ones. Your brain already recognizes those existing habits, so piggybacking new ones on top makes them easier to accept. Also, don't underestimate the power of environment. Your surroundings influence your habits more than you realize. If you want to eat healthier, keep fruits visible and snacks hidden. If you want to read more, place your book on your pillow. If you want to work out every morning, set out your clothes the night before. These tiny changes remove friction. They send silent messages to your brain. This is who I am now. During the 21 days, it's important to track your progress. Not to be perfect, but to stay aware. Use a calendar, a habit tracker app, or even a notebook. Each time you complete your habit, mark it with a check. These check marks become a visual proof of your consistency. They give you a sense of achievement and motivate you to keep going. Missing one day doesn't mean you failed, but missing several in a row can break the rhythm. Let's talk about mindset. The 21-day challenge is not just physical, it's emotional and mental. You'll have days when you're tired, stressed, or tempted to quit. That's normal. Your old self will try to pull you back. In those moments, remind yourself why you started. Visualize your future self stronger, calmer, more focused. That version of you already exists, you're just building a bridge to meet them. Every small action is a step closer. There's also power in simplicity. Don't make your 21-day habit too big or too complicated. The smaller the habit, the easier it is to succeed. Instead of saying, I'll meditate for 30 minutes every day, start with 2 minutes. Instead of, I'll go to the gym every day, begin with 10 squats at home. If you want to write a book, start with 1 paragraph a day. The goal is not to impress others, it's to train your brain, and your brain learns best through small, repeated wins. Another helpful technique is to create a reward system. Our brains love rewards. After completing your daily habit, give yourself something that feels good, a deep breath, a smile, a sticker on your chart, or even just saying, I did it. These small rewards tell your brain, this behavior feels good, let's do it again. Over time, the habit becomes its own reward. Have you ever promised yourself a fresh start? You told yourself, this time, I'll change everything. The plan was big. You were ready. For a few days, motivation carried you. But then life stepped in. 1 skipped day turned into 2. The excitement faded, and before you knew it, the goal became another forgotten idea. This isn't failure, it's human, and it's common. What we often misunderstand is that real lasting change doesn't begin with big, bold goals. It begins with something much smaller, something almost invisible, tiny habits. When we imagine success, we tend to picture a massive leap. We want transformation to look dramatic and instant, but true progress is rarely loud. It's quiet, steady. It happens in moments when no one is watching, when you choose to do just a little, again and again, every single day. Tiny habits may seem too simple to matter, but they hold incredible power. Unlike grand goals that require perfect motivation, small habits are easy to do even on bad days. They remove the pressure. Instead of saying, I have to write 1,000 words, you simply say, I'll write 1 sentence. It sounds like nothing, but it removes the biggest barrier, starting. That first step, however small, builds momentum. It tells your brain, I can do this. And once you start, doing a little more becomes natural. A 5-minute walk might lead to 10. One deep breath might lead to 10 minutes of calm. A small act of kindness might make your whole day better. The size doesn't matter. What matters is the consistency. Why do these small actions work so well? Because they're repeatable. You don't need to wait for the perfect time. You don't need to feel ready. You just begin and let the habit carry you. Over time, your brain adjusts. Your identity shifts. You start to see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who follows through. There's a reason why so many New Year's resolutions fail. They ask for too much too soon. Go to the gym every day. Wake up at 5 a.m. Cut out sugar forever. These changes sound good, but they're exhausting to maintain. Life is unpredictable. You'll get sick. You'll get busy. You'll feel unmotivated. And when that happens, the big goal crumbles. Now imagine your only goal is to do one push-up, or drink one glass of water, or write one sentence. Can you do that, even on your worst day? Absolutely. That's the magic of tiny habits. They're nearly impossible to fail. Over time, these habits build something more powerful than results. They build trust. You start to trust yourself again. You're not breaking promises to yourself anymore. You're proving, every day, that you can stay consistent, and that confidence carries into other areas of your life. There's a famous story of a man who wanted to get fit but couldn't stick to the gym. So he made a rule. He would drive to the gym and stay for just 5 minutes. That's it. He did this for weeks. Eventually, the habit felt natural, and he stayed longer. But he never forced it. He let the habit grow on its own, and it changed everything. This same logic applies to every goal. Want to be a better reader? Read 1 page a day. Want to eat healthier? Replace one snack. Want to be more grateful? Write one thing you're thankful for. Start small. Stay consistent. Let the habit take root before you try to grow it. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you wait, you trust the process. Habits work the same way. You may not see results right away, but something is happening beneath the surface. Your brain is learning. Your identity is evolving. Eventually, you look up one day and realize something's different. You feel calmer, stronger, more focused. The tiny things you did without much thought have now shaped your life in ways you never expected. People often underestimate the power of small things because they don't give instant results. But instant results don't last. What lasts is what's built slowly, patiently, and consistently. Tiny habits teach you to fall in love with the process, not just chase the result. And the best part? Anyone can start. You don't need money, time, or talent. You just need a willingness to begin, even if it's just for 2 minutes a day. That small act is enough, because the goal isn't to impress anyone. The goal is to become someone you're proud of, and that starts with showing up for yourself every single day. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by a goal, stop, breathe, shrink it down. Ask yourself, what's the smallest step I can take today? Then take it. That one small step, repeated over time, is more powerful than the biggest plan you'll never finish. Your future doesn't need a massive breakthrough. It needs tiny, quiet actions done with care, done with love, done with trust. That's where real transformation begins. Have you ever noticed how just a short walk can clear your mind? Or how dancing to your favorite song instantly lifts your mood, even on the worst days? That's not a coincidence, that's the power of movement. In a world where we're told to sit still, stay focused, and grind harder, we often forget that our bodies were designed to move. And when we don't, we suffer, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. Movement isn't just about fitness. It's not about getting a six-pack or running a marathon. It's about reconnecting with yourself, feeling alive in your own skin. You see, every time you move your body, you send signals to your brain. You're not just burning calories, you're lighting up parts of your mind that stay quiet when you sit still. You're releasing chemicals that boost happiness, reduce anxiety, and make you feel more in control. And in a time when so many people feel disconnected, overwhelmed, and lost in their own heads, that reconnection can change everything. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, strong or weak, flexible or stiff. Your body doesn't care about perfection, it just wants to be used, loved, and listened to. Even the smallest movement can create a shift. One stretch in the morning can loosen the tension from a stressful night. A 5-minute walk during lunch can lift the brain fog from hours of screen time. A dance break in your room can turn a sad, heavy heart into a smiling one. This is real. This is backed by science. And more importantly, it's something you can feel. When we move, our bodies produce endorphins, the feel-good hormones. They're natural painkillers. They boost mood. They reduce stress. In fact, studies show that consistent physical activity can be as effective as medication for some forms of depression and anxiety. That doesn't mean you have to hit the gym every day. It just means you need to move in a way that feels good, something your body enjoys. For some, that's running. For others, it's yoga, gardening, or even cleaning the house with music on. What matters is the rhythm, the flow, the motion. Our brains are deeply connected to our bodies. When we move, especially when we do it intentionally and with presence, we activate regions of the brain responsible for focus, memory, and emotional regulation. That's why so many people report getting their best ideas during a walk or feeling calmer after a workout. It's not just about sweat, it's about clarity. It's about creating space inside your mind. One powerful shift that happens with regular movement is the change in identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone stuck or lazy. You start to feel capable, confident, in control. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, you're proving to yourself, I show up, I take care of me. And that's powerful. That self-trust spills into other areas of life, your work, your relationships, your dreams. And let's talk about the stress we all carry, not just in our minds, but in our muscles. Our bodies store emotions, especially the heavy ones. Anxiety in your chest, tension in your shoulders, sadness in your spine. Movement helps release that. It shakes things loose. It allows you to exhale what you've been holding on to. Some people cry during yoga or after a deep run, not because they're in pain, but because something inside them finally let go. That's healing. That's medicine. We often think of exercise as a chore, something we have to force ourselves to do. But what if we stopped calling it exercise and started calling it medicine for the mind? What if we saw it as self-love instead of punishment? You're not working out because you hate your body. You're moving because you love it, or at least you're trying to. And love takes action. There's a beautiful simplicity in that. You don't need a gym membership, fancy clothes, or a perfect body. You just need space, and a little music doesn't hurt. Imagine this. You wake up, play your favorite song, and move however your body wants. No rules, no mirrors. Just you, your breath, your heartbeat, your joy. That 5-minute ritual can become your anchor. On hard days, it's your lifeline. On good days, it's your celebration. Movement also gives us back control in a world that often feels chaotic. When everything feels uncertain, your job, your relationships, your future, movement grounds you. It reminds you that you still have power. You can move, you can stretch, you can dance. And in doing so, you reclaim a piece of yourself that the world may have tried to silence. This is especially important in today's digital world, where we're more disconnected from our bodies than ever. We scroll for hours but forget to breathe deeply. We stare at screens but ignore the stiffness in our necks. Movement brings us back. It says, hey, you live here. This body is your home. Let's take care of it. That awareness, that reconnection changes how we treat ourselves. We become more gentle, more present, more alive. And yes, there will be days when you don't feel like moving. Days when your mind is heavy and your energy is low. That's okay. On those days, the goal is not intensity, it's compassion. Can you still move, even just a little? Can you walk to the window? Stretch your arms, roll your neck? That small act says, I'm still here, I'm still trying, and that's enough. The truth is, movement doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It doesn't need to be long to be healing. It just needs to be yours, honest, joyful, free. It's not about comparison or performance. It's about coming home to yourself. Each time you move, you remind yourself that you're alive and that life, with all its chaos, is still a gift. So if you're feeling stuck mentally, emotionally, spiritually, don't wait for a perfect moment. Don't wait to feel ready. Just move. Shake your hands. Breathe deeply. Step outside. Put one foot in front of the other. Let your body lead. It knows the way back to balance. It knows how to heal. In the end, movement isn't just something we do. It's something we are. We are built to move, to dance, to flow. And when we honor that, not for anyone else, but for ourselves, we unlock a kind of strength that doesn't just change our bodies, it changes our entire lives. We are taught to chase goals, hustle harder, be stronger, stay productive, but very few of us are ever taught how to be kind to ourselves. Isn't that strange? We cheer for others when they're down, We forgive the people we love. We show patience and support when someone else makes a mistake. But when it comes to ourselves, we're harsh, unforgiving, cruel even. One bad day and we call ourselves lazy, one failure and we label ourselves worthless. We carry our pain in silence, believing that being hard on ourselves is the only way to improve. But that's a lie. Real change doesn't grow from self-hate. It grows from self-compassion. Self-compassion is not weakness. It's not giving up or making excuses. It's strength. It's the ability to hold yourself in the middle of your struggle and say, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, and that's enough for today. Imagine talking to yourself the way you'd talk to a child learning to walk. When they fall, do you yell at them? Do you say, you're hopeless? No, you smile. You encourage them. You help them get back up. That's how growth works, with patience, not punishment. So why do we treat ourselves any differently? Because we've been conditioned to believe that shame leads to success. That if we beat ourselves down, we'll rise harder. But science and real-life experience says the opposite. People who practice self-compassion are more motivated, more consistent, and more emotionally stable. Why? Because when failure hits, and it always does, they don't spiral into guilt. They learn, they grow, and they try again. Think of self-compassion as emotional armor. Life will throw punches. You'll mess up. You'll be misunderstood. But instead of crumbling, self-compassion helps you stay standing. It whispers, it's okay, you're human. Let's take the next step. When you build this habit, everything else becomes easier. Productivity feels lighter because you're no longer working from a place of fear. Relationships deepen because you're not projecting your insecurities. Even your health improves because stress reduces, sleep gets better, and your body responds to gentleness, not just effort. And the beautiful thing? Self-compassion doesn't require a perfect background, a degree, or years of therapy. It begins with small shifts. When you make a mistake, pause. Instead of saying, I'm such a failure, say, I'm learning. When you feel overwhelmed, don't push harder, rest. Tell yourself, I deserve care too. It might feel awkward at first, maybe even fake, but just like building muscle, kindness takes repetition. Start by noticing your inner voice. Is it kind, supportive, encouraging? If not, change the script. Slowly, gently. Over time, your mind will adapt. Your identity will shift. You'll no longer be the person who tears yourself down. You'll be the one who shows up, even when it's hard. You'll be someone who's not perfect, but powerful. Because powerful people know how to fall and rise with grace. One of the most courageous things you can do is show up for yourself on the days you feel least worthy. Anyone can be kind when things are going well, but it takes real strength to be gentle with yourself in the middle of a storm. So if you're tired, discouraged, or ashamed of where you are, let that be the moment you choose something different. Not harder work, not more hustle, just more love, more kindness, more compassion. That shift alone can change the entire direction of your life. Today, give yourself permission to be human. Let go of the guilt. Release the pressure. Speak to yourself with the same love you give to others. Whether you're winning or barely holding on, you still deserve care. You still deserve softness. You still matter. Start now. Take a deep breath. Place your hand on your heart and whisper to yourself, I'm doing my best. I'm learning, and I won't give up on me. Because the habit of self-compassion doesn't just change your mood. It changes your mind, your habits, your relationships, your entire life, and you deserve that transformation.